It's a time for... which one shall I open? Oh, it's like my birthday with a package from China. So let's go. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. So in today's video we're going to take a close look at the Anbernic RG40XX. So this is one of those, let's say, many devices from Anbernic. I think at this point they are releasing every single month a new device. However, this new lineup of, let's say, devices, so what they have like similar, having the same kind of like specs, but also when it comes to the software itself. So it's kind of interesting to see that they're going to be into this, let's say, market where we're having all kinds of different versions, but we do have the same kind of, let's say, specs or software. So we can easily upgrade it, and the overall software, that was most of the time the major problem. So the model itself, it's completely different than all the other ones, and I must say that this RG40XX is a quite interesting one when it comes to the form factor. So I was quite surprised how comfortable it is due of, let's say, the form factor. It's very flat, and we have seen with PowKitty on devices where they have like a little bit of ergonomics. This thing is very comfortable, and this is simply to do when it comes over here to the bumps for the semi triggers. They are very comfortable, and the positioning is absolutely great when just holding it in my hand. Okay, so the ergonomics are great, but how about the device itself? It comes with the 2 SD configuration they're doing for some time now. With the second SD card, this is not implemented. I think most of the files will be on the first one over here, but what you can do is like one for the firmware, another one for the file. So if you want to swap firmwares, you can just easily do that and leave the other one in there. Headphone jack and having 2 speakers. And the speakers, I was quite surprised how good they actually are. On top of finding an HDMI functionality, and I love it, because when you can just plug it in, you're going to bring this thing on vacation. We can just plug it into a television and just use this thing as a game box system. USB-C connection and physical volume control, and I love it because in the past we have seen devices with other brands that didn't have that. And over here, the switch itself, the on and off switch, will turn the device on, and the reset button if you have any problems whatsoever, and an education LED over there. You can see that they make like a pattern on the L1, R2 and all the other ones, but it's kind of cool that it will give a little bit better grip. So for the video I just want to experience the original software, and later on I will not be surprised there will be many firmwares coming out making the device even better. So in here we're finding, and that is always kind of a little of a weird thing, so having the game rooms, this is the RetroArch, having the app sender, favorites, history, search, settings. But what they wanted to do with this is just a basic overall interface and just searching for games. PlayStation Portable, PlayStation 1, and there was a lot of stuff that can be played. We have slightly better performance with PlayStation Portable, but we're still not there yet. And the same goes for N64 and many other devices. Some limitations that we have seen in the past are still here, for example when it comes to some MIM games. With the RetroArch folder we're having even more devices, including Dreamcast. So when you're looking at it, the way how and what you can play is absolutely massive, and so many old games from the past can be played. App sender, music, video, so if you want to have a multimedia function, we can actually do it and start it up from here. For example, have the video, we can get into the folder, and you can choose different kind of SD card. So let's say if you have the second card filled with music or videos, and then we can actually boot it up over here. But also a great test for the audio itself, and the audio is great. So navigating through different videos and music, it can be done fairly easy. However, what you need to take consideration that getting out of it feels kind of, let's say, choppy. It's not like super convenient. However, that I can tell you that here you can see close the app, and then it's going to be exiting. However, there are different ways to actually navigate through the menu itself. But when watching videos, it's going to be slightly different. File manager, and here we can go to the SD card, and if you want to remove stuff, you can actually do it over here. And pressing the M button, I've already shown you a couple of times now. We can press it, get out of the app, and that's actually how the software itself works. It's kind of clunky or how it feels, but it's kind of okay if you're going to get used to it. So history in here, we're finding all of the games that you actually played before. We can even search. So like always, let's search for the Sonic games. And what I do find interesting, and that is absolutely great, so when you're going to be searching, you can just see over here, it showcases the platform, but also what kind of folder. So in here we're finding the GBA, having just the normal emulators, but if you're going to be going one up, it shows RA, in other words, RetroArch. So the way you can just navigate and see what kind of games you want to play and what kind of platform, it's absolutely great. So when it comes to the overall software itself, where this is not the most beautiful and best machine, maybe firmware, but out of box, I'm quite surprised, and yeah, it works quite good. The display that you're using is absolutely beautiful. We've reached the point of level of these devices that we have absolutely great overall experience with that. It's kind of glossy if you look at it, but also the front glass is absolutely beautiful. It's not like super scratch sensitive, and the overall quality, I can tell you that I am really flabbergasted. But the next test I wanted to do is see how the D-pad actually works. With the D-pad have a very nice, let's say, resistance. So the question, is it any good when it comes to fighting games? So let's check that out. Let's see how responsive it is. Not like my favorite D-pad to play when it comes to like this resistance. I've played with way better D-pads, but seems to be responsive and every move come out instantly. So for fighting games, this is just absolutely great. So pressing the M button will give you the menu, the quick menu, or the special menu, I love to call it, and make a quick load, quick save over here. What I love about every game will have a different kind of slots, so we can make a save state over here and even give you a preview where you are. So one of the features that I just love about these devices, and with the video filter effect you can have HD, what I was actually using and now making the first part of the gameplay video, but I'm going to be setting it to fast because it will give you the original overall experience and also no filter whatsoever. But we have scan lines and everything else, and that's kind of cool. So with the normal emulator, it's unfortunate that some emulators can struggle. For example, the Super NES. You can just hear that the audio isn't like it should be. And there's a great example, that a moment that we need to go out of the game and we need to get out of these emulators and we need to use the RetroArch instead. And with RetroArch we're also going to have a bezel for getting the right aspect ratio, and the emulation performance is absolutely spot on. So that's one of the things that's also kind of weird. I'm thinking like, why should you even bother getting the other menu that some of them are like even don't have the option to play like Super NES decently enough to enjoy. And that's kind of weird, to be honest, that they made this decision to even put it on there. They should filter or just use one certain option like RetroArch. RetroArch also has a different kind of menu, what you can see. We do have like the save states and all the other craziness, but it is not that fancy that we've seen before. In here we're finding the different save states, but also the slots. And yeah, and that's the thing, you know, I love like myself the previous menu. It's so much more convenient to use. The emulation of self of the, let's say the RetroArch is just so much better than the previous overall menu that we have seen with the games room. So it's a little bit of a downside that, you know, that is going to be a hit or miss. But let's get into some more interesting emulation to check out how this actually works with PlayStation. So it's absolutely amazing time we're living that we're having so many different devices that can actually play PlayStation 1 without any problem. It's still a native resolution, but for me that's not going to be a problem. It seems to be that both the joystick and the D-pad seem to be working just fine. And PlayStation 1 emulation on the go on this device, oh man, this is going to be absolutely a blast to the past when it comes to that. But if you're going to be playing some PlayStation Portable, so this is going to be a hit or miss with certain games. I just wanted to start up some Tekken 5. This is a less demanding game. I've noticed this will run overall better than most of these, let's say, the devices I've reviewed over here. And yeah, also a little bit of a bummer about this is that we do have like two huge black bars. Let's see if we can even make a save file. We can also make a save file. Let's do a quick battle with the CPU. Okay, so getting into the game itself. Yeah, I'm gonna say the overall performance is not bad at all, with some hiccups like normal. There we go. Don't know exactly what kind of emulator version they're running on this out of the box. But for performance wise, absolutely awesome. In here we can just get into the PPSPP emulator. And then we can just see what they're doing. It's kind of weird that they even went for like 2 times rendering resolution. That is kind of weird. That is absolutely weird, because with 1 times we're going to have a better performance. So you can see it's always very important to double check the settings, because this can be a problem when it comes to the performance. But for PlayStation performance, and we should like do like more testing, and it's going to be in the end a hit or miss. Okay, so with the Sega Dreamcast, we do have some overall great performance here. However, when it comes to, let's say, gameplay, we do find some minor stutters. So that is something you should take in consideration when actually playing some Sega Dreamcast. So where this is still not that perfect, and with software we can do maybe some tweaking and getting maybe with some different firmwares overall better performance in the future. But out of the box, I found quite surprising how good it actually runs. And one of the features that I also find very interesting is the audio quality, because that is absolutely great. The stereo effect is just amazing. Yep. But you can also see how glossy it is, that my studio lamp is like shining into this thing. Oh, super reflective. It also includes, when it comes to the Sega Naomi system, the arcade or the counter arcade part from the Dreamcast. And over here we're finding some good emulation with some Giga Wing, with no, like say, crazy dips or whatsoever. So with N64 it's going to be the same situation where we have a hit and miss situation. You can actually hear the crackling noise of the audio. But when it comes to configuration of the controls, yeah, it's not bad at all. Oh, that's kind of weird that the analog or the right joystick is going to be configured with the normal buttons on the joystick. Doesn't matter. Everything has been configured as it should be when it comes to all of the buttons. And the D-pad has like a lot of resistance, but you can just see that it's quite nice to play with. But how about the construction itself? I think it's a quite good construction when it comes to, like, when you're just tearing it down. I mean, particularly looking at they're just using 4, like say, inbus sparkers and another clicking plastic mechanism. And the way how this feels, it's quite sturdy in the hand, and opening up, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So if you want to replace the battery, but you can just swap it out by unplugging it and plugging it back in. So the piece of plastic they're using, it's quite flexible, but also kind of sturdy at the same time. So they're using this piece of, I'm guessing, plastic semi-cardboard or something like that for having some resistance against the heat of the battery itself, particularly when you're going to be charging it. So this thing comes indeed with the all-winner H700 in chip that we will find in different devices. The construction, if you look at the PCB, you can replace the parts like the battery, the speakers, and there's even a rumble function here, but you need to desolder it if this thing doesn't work. For the trigger console, yeah, it's not really actually a trigger, but it's just micro switch over here. You can just see that they made the same construction that we've seen with some of the other Anbernic devices. But absolutely awesome to see that you can actually plug this thing into, let's say, a monitor like that. Okay, so what we can also do is getting into, let's say, the video effect. So let's put it on scanline, and here on the screen you can actually just see how it looks. So it's just a great overall plug-and-play solution, and I think that is one of the positive things about this device. If you're going to be unplugging it, let's see what happens. Sometimes you need to get into the main menu or take some time. And here you can actually see that it reboots. So that is a little bit of a downside when it comes to these devices. Some of them you need to reboot or plug it into the main menu. If you're not going to be doing that, it's going to give you a reset and not a lot of gameplay. The RG40XX is one of the many devices in the same lineup when it comes to chipset, but also when it comes particularly to the software itself. I'm quite surprised how good it is. I do love the form factor itself, the display, and yeah, the rainbow, let's say, colors around the joysticks are a very cool extra. However, the way how it works out of the box is quite nice, and everybody can actually use it. So it's still strange that they went for 2 different systems, where I do love the games rooms and the basic menu. The way how everything looks and works is just great. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, hit that little bell, and it will be great to see you in the next video.